Hello, welcome to the third week of the painting and drawing number 2 class. And this week is one of the most difficult parts of the skeleton. The rib cage. Now let me get Fritz, who's been sleeping all week. He loves to rest. And let's have a, there you go. Let's have a look at this rib cage. There you can see it. The important thing is to remember that it is called a rib cage. So it is like a cage, you know, it can hold things like a bird is inside a cage. And of course there's the frontal ribs. And here's the rear of the ribs. Of course, we're drawing it from the front, but because it's a rib cage, for some of you this is going to be a real challenge because you're going to be attempting to get a three-dimensional look on this. If you look at the rib cage, you can count the ribs here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 ribs there. So, you know, as this is not a toy, it's an anatomical model, you know, it's not like a Halloween skeleton. It has more information about the ribs. Here's the sternum holding the ribs together, and these parts here that are done in a different sort of colour are intended to show you the ability that the ribs have to expand and contract. So if you fill your lungs with air, they expand, and then you let them in, they contract. So they obviously have that flexibility, and this represents the ability for flexibility. As too with these discs which are in the spinal column, and this is the cause of lots of back trouble with people from the disc, which is in effect like a inside of a golf ball. You know, if you ever cut open a golf ball, it's got a kind of round thing in the middle, like full of paste, and it's the same thing in this. It's got a kind of thick paste, and that allows the spine to bend back and forth. I think Fritz is a bit stiff, but that's also, you can see, signified by these different coloured parts here. So it's not a stiff thing, a skeleton, it's a mobile thing. So looking at the rib cage, with all of these things that we're doing, it's important just to take your time, do it like a jigsaw. So I'm starting with the sternum. Turn round, Fritz, so I can see you. I'm going to start with the sternum. There it is, drawn in, and then I'm going to attach the ribs to the sternum. So when you look at the sternum, that's this central piece here, you can see that there are little areas where the ribs join into the sternum. So you can realise that's where the ribs are going to start. So I'm going to draw the rib in there. I'll do a little bit of the spine as well. You can all see this. The cervical spine, cervical from the neck. That's done. I'm going to do these shoulder bones up here, and of course I'm going to do this a lot quicker than you need to do it. You can spend your time, and you have an entire week to do this, so it's a long time. Relax. So I'm doing each one at a time. I'm going to curl it round. I'm going to do the frontal ribs first. So first of all, I'm going to do these ribs that we see at the front, and I'm going to make the shadows of the ones at the back afterwards. So that light's got a mind of its own. You see it twists round. There we are. So I'm doing the frontal ribs and I'm just curling them round to join into the sternum. So by doing that, you know, each one kind of folding in a like a sequence, and as it's going down, the ribs are getting slightly larger. So it's starting with smaller ribs at the top and then going down, down, down into larger ribs as it gets to the bottom. So you see that? I'm making them round, curl round like that. Hope you can see all this. I'll see if I can find a computer drawing I have done and put it in as well for this week, so it's possibly more easy to see, because this is a complicated thing for you, and if you can draw this, you should be able to draw anything. You can see I'm making them bigger as they're coming down, bigger as they're widening out, and the shape here, you can copy it from that original drawing by the anatomist called Vesalius. Actually, I'm mixing it up, sorry. Albinus. It's easy to get these old weird names mixed up. So Albinus. There were two great anatomy drawers. Vesalius, he came in like about 100 years before Albinus. But I like Albinus because his drawings are more refined. So I'm expanding it down to the bottom. Yes, and there they are, the bottom ribs. And I'll do some of the bottom of the lumbar spine here, attaching to it. You can see it on the drawings, and if you haven't received that package yet with all the worksheets for this semester, please, for heaven's sake, get in touch with me and let me know, and I will send it out again. I mean, I'll keep doing it until the United States Postal Service manages to get it through your mailbox. So don't be shy, just let me know. So that's that. So then I'm going to do I've got the frontal ribs done now, and I'm just going to do with a darker shading. So for this, you probably are best with a pencil that's soft. What do I mean by soft? Pencils come in different numbers. They're written on the side of the pencil. For instance, this one here is a 8B, which is signifying a very soft pencil. If it was 8H, H for hard, that would mean a very hard pencil, you know, suitable for stabbing vampires to death. But this one is an 8B, which means a very soft pencil. I don't know why B means soft, but you know, that's the way they have it. So, you know, if you're able to buy pencils, just try and get some, you know, I know one student is buying her pencils from Amazon, and you get a selection box. She sent me a photograph of it, and it even had a pencil that was 14B. 14B is a really soft pencil. I've never seen a 14B, so I'll be interested to see what work comes out of that. So to get the 3D look, the ribs that are behind these frontal ribs, which I'm doing kind of light coloured, I'm doing the ones behind as a shadow rib. Okay, so the idea is that it's going to make this rib cage feel like a three-dimensional hollow cage that could hold the internal organs. It's designed to hold your internal organs. It holds the lungs, the heart, the kidneys and all that business. So it's very important. It's a protective mechanism, and it's the shell that is holding you all together there. When I was at art college, we went to look at corpses being cut open in anatomy chambers. And they take a kind of saw and they cut right down here, the sternum, right down there. Fritz, you don't mind showing off this? Not in the slightest. It's my job. Okay, Fritz, thank you. So you basically, they cut right down here, one line, and then they open that out, and they open that out as if it was a box with two doors, one open here, one open here, so the whole rib cage is opened out, and then they have access to the lungs and the heart, and they remove those organs because they want to examine those organs to see what caused the death of the individual. So that's the purpose of a morgue and a mortuary. Okay. So I'm doing this very quickly, and hopefully it's looking okay. Never too sure. I'm doing these rear parts of the ribs there. I mean, you can have time to do this. You might do a much better job than I'm doing. This is just a quick impression so that you are able to do something. Until you know the human anatomy, you can't really say that you know about drawing, because say for instance you're going to be doing anime, or you're going to try and get a job in comics. You try doing drawings of Superman or the Fantastic Four, and with no knowledge of anatomy, basically your career is going to last half a second. So you know, you need to know these things. And for those of you who are seriously going to go on to art and try and make a living at it, and it is possible, not easy, but it is possible, these are things that you want to learn along the way. We did lots of this in art school, you know, drawing from the skeleton and from the live models. And, you know, I spent years doing it basically. So Even now I can't say, I cannot say that I'm really an expert at it, but I'm a lot better than I was years ago. You know, I used to I learned how to draw by copying from comics, like the ones I mentioned, the Fantastic Four and like Monster Comics and Superman comics, Marvel comics. I spent hours kind of like copying the figures there, and then, you know, it helped a little bit to learn that. I got a knowledge of composition and figures and muscles, and then I went on to learn more about what's inside, you know, the muscles and how to make the thing work better. So that's what we're doing here, making the thing work better, so you get a knowledge of the skeleton and its dynamics. Now I'm doing it pretty rough, and hopefully it's coming into, yeah, I mean, it almost looks three-dimensional, and I've spent like less than 15 minutes. Once you rough it in, you know, like at this time, I'm starting to get a good feeling about it. I was a bit nervous at the beginning there because the rib cage really is quite a daunting thing to look at. But once I get through my nerves, then I start to get into it and start to enjoy it. And I think that's a good lesson for life. You know, once you get through your nervous kind of part, and I'm nervous, you know, I get like anxious and all those things. But once I kind of like get into something, then I forget about all that stuff. And that's the good thing about doing art. You know, if you have anxiety or anything like that, you know, worries, you can use the art to work through it and get into a more relaxed, true to yourself kind of feeling, rather than having these thoughts running you all the time. You can run those thoughts, so you reverse the equation. Rather than you being run by thoughts which are out of control, you start to go in there and you become the driver of those thoughts, so you make them go where you want them to go, rather than them taking you. You know, it's like somebody riding a horse and cart and letting the horses take themselves anywhere. You know, the horse will just take you anywhere. It'll take you on a hell of a ride. But if you can actually, what do I mean by that? Your thoughts are the horse. Just let it go. You're going to be taken into hell, perhaps. But if you can ride those horses, you know, and make them, steer them with those reins, you can make that go somewhere good for you. And that's important to learn. And art is one way of learning it. So if you're into art, and obviously you are because you're here now listening to me, go for it. So even this difficult exercise can be part of that training. You know, you're training yourself. And art is all about becoming yourself and enjoying just being yourself. Not becoming anyone else, but becoming you. Okay, so I mean, that's it. I mean, I'm going on long enough, nearly 20 minutes. So you get the feeling. Here's the skeleton. I've done a quick rib cage, and it's looking kind of 3D. You know, it's not too bad. Let's see it. Yeah, it's okay, you know, for a 15-minute job. And I did all the front here. Remember the sternum first. Then I attached the ribs, which get progressively bigger as it spirals down. The skeleton kind of grows in a spiral, and I'm going to talk about spirals because, you know, spirals are interesting. Your fingerprint has got a spiral, okay? And your hair grows in a spiral shape. And if you look at the skeleton, a lot of it is in spirals. And then, you know, if you look at a telescope and look up in the stars, the Milky Way and these galaxies, they form the shapes of spirals. And tonight, if you flush the toilet or put water in the basin and let it run down, it doesn't go straight down like a brick falling. It goes in a spiral down. So spiral is one of these shapes that unites all of the the large, huge world of the cosmos and the tiny world, even the molecule, the DNA helix in your body. You know the helix, that tiny thing. That tiny microscopic thing is in the shape of a spiral. So spirals are important. So anyway, these spirals go down there in that way, getting bigger, and then I put the lines behind the rib cage very loosely so that you get the feeling that you can put your hand inside that. So do your best to draw this, and submit me the work at the end of the week by text or by email, and I will be delighted to see that. Now get it in before the end of the week though, don't delay it to the last minute, because this takes some concentration, you know. So there you are. That's this week's exercise, which on the list is week 3. Today we will do the rib cage. Okay? Cheers everyone. Bye for now. Over and out.